I'm Jason Lord, an interdisciplinary artist based in North Carolina. I grew up queer in a working-class Catholic family in southern Vermont. From religion, I developed metaphysical curiosity and an affinity for ritual. From humble beginnings, the experimental resourcefulness of the New England tinker. And from queerness, the fluidity and flexibility of an improvisational approach. My interdisciplinary and multimodal practice embraces physical and conceptual wandering. After 25 years as a constructivist arts educator, where my job was to know how to do many things across disciplines, I have many competencies and utilize a vast toolbox of materials, processes, and strategies for making, thinking, and doing. My inquiry-based practice is prolifically experimental, and the work is often obsessive, driven by curiosity. The questions I ask continually change, though certain themes reappear in my work, including pushing the formal relationship between repetition and variation, a preoccupation with organizational systems, and two overarching questions: what does it mean to be human, and what can art do? Sometimes I see myself in my art practice as a murmuration of starlings, in constant motion, capable of abruptly and joyfully shifting direction at any time, pulling apart and reassembling in a new configuration, the boundary between myself and the sky indistinct, the distinction between myself and my constituent parts blurred. Where does one thing end and another begin? In 2020, I started a daily walking practice that became a ritual. I walked at least 5 miles daily, regardless of weather, mood, or obligations, for 1,000 consecutive days. As my body walked through the external worlds of my city, I simultaneously trekked inward, wondering about the world and allowing a perceptual realignment to open me. At the pace of walking, the mundane comes alive for me. I pay attention differently. I'm more generous, slow-looking, and listening now. I notice and document shadows, intrigued by how the shadows of two separate things merge into a single new shape on the ground and form a language of their own. What is at the edge of language? While I walk, I gather discarded objects from the side of the road, and through these objects, I assemble a new iconography, dismantling that of Catholicism, using some of its parts to construct a new syncretic spiritual framework. What can rules do? I tinker, deconstruct, and reconstruct objects, images, systems, and the ever-evolving rules of my creative practice. Earlier this year, I came upon the writings of the French philosopher-psychoanalyst duo Deleuze and Guattari. Their thinking around the notions of multiplicity, assemblage, interbeing, and non-hierarchy have informed and inspired much of my recent work. And in 1,000 Plateaus, their description of the rhizome feels particularly pertinent. A rhizome has no beginning or end. It is always in the middle, between things, interbeing, intermezzo. The tree is filiation, but the rhizome is alliance, uniquely alliance. The tree imposes the verb to be, but the fabric of the rhizome is the conjunction, and. This conjunction carries enough force to shake and uproot the verb to be. When I work in site-specific installation, the invisible strands connecting a drawing on one side of the gallery to a sculpture across the room to a sound in the neighboring gallery, to the person moving through the space, are more interesting to me than the objects on their own. A curatorial impulse focused on the new thing made when disparate things are stitched together. I've been thinking a lot lately about the term activation. To activate something, to make it vital, to make it function, to illuminate it, bring it into focus, to give an undead thing a pulse, to give an inert thing motion, life. And I wonder about how to activate the space between things. People, buildings, objects, phrases, sounds, memories, moments in time. In the spring of 2023, I performed a ritualized intervention in a public space, standing on the corner of a busy intersection holding a different sign each day for 100 days. This project activated space in a couple of ways. Through repetition, my body established a pattern at this site, becoming part of the landscape. Someone handed me this poem at one point, and the excerpted phrase underscores this level of site activation. Something else was happening between me and motorists as they drove by, a momentary connection like the firing of a synapse, a split second of electrical current activating the space between us as they honked, glared, gave me a thumbs up, or in two cases, toasted me with the banana they were eating. My community, these humans of broadly diverse experience, after all of our fears subsided, we were rooting for each other. Humans want to love the world. It's not always easy, but we want to love and be loved, marvel at things, experience joy and surprise, and weather and language and solidarity, and mountain laurel and spanakopita, and snorkeling and well-executed double plays, and dirty jokes and rhyming couplets, and all of the idiosyncratic things that make each of us vibrate. Our humanity is all of the little starlings of us in whirling murmuration, our specific lived experiences, our memories, our families, jobs, our broken hearts, our mended hearts, the experience of mending our own hearts. All starlings taking the lead for a time and then falling back into the rhythm of the organic wave making that is being human. A few months ago, I popped into a museum gallery to snap a quick photo of some work I had installed there, and I came upon a couple looking at it, talking arm in arm. I couldn't hear everything they were saying, and believe me, I tried, but I gleaned the gist. They were wondering about it. It looks like language. Look at the wires. Do you see that flower? This reminds me of this thing that we saw together. And I think about activation and being human and what art can do. What art can do is activate our humanity, activate the starlings in us that have not taken their turn to lead for a while. Send them a little electrical pulse, activate our compassion, our curiosity, our generosity, the tender parts that get tucked away for safekeeping. So, here I am at the Vermont Studio Center, surrounded by all of you brilliant and generous people, in a dream, wondering about wood and paint and power structures and the limitations of language, and loving the world in the best way I know how. Thanks.